Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode entitled Galactic Download with Indigo Angel. You can find her work at Indigo Angel here on YouTube and also on her website at indigoangel222.com. And of course, you can support her on her Patreon here also at Indigo Angel. Let's give her a big warm welcome back to the show, Indigo. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me back. And I'm excited to dive into the shenanigans today with you, the deep woo-woo.
It seems to me that the woo is getting deeper and deeper every day. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being back on Indigo. Always have loved these chats that you and I have together. And of course, the audience really appreciate the way you bring down like multi-dimensional, complex ideas into here, this realm, for us to kind of grasp and understand and digest. And you do such a great job at that. So thank you so much, Indigo. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on this live interactive show. We'll be taking your questions and your comments as we go here. But today, before I start with the episode notes, Indigo, tell us a little bit how your summer is going, what struggles you've been going through, because I think all of us right now have been challenged. People who are watching my show know that I have had some challenge also. But talk about how maybe the microcosm of our lives is also the macrocosm here of universe at the same time, and how all of that fits together.
Yeah, absolutely. This summer has definitely been, let me turn my volume down. This summer has definitely been, I guess, a pretty tumultuous summer overall. I would say the energies many of us on a personal level, I think, have been going through just a lot of revelations, a lot of clearing out of old wounds, old traumas, things that maybe you thought were healed or you've already moved past or moved through are kind of resurfacing and replaying and recycling. And so for me personally, I've definitely had just a lot of those personal things play out within my family and all of these things, especially with moving too. I'm like now down in the south, the deep south, and I'm getting a lot of these Hydra transmissions. I'm here with the Hydra rain and the Hydra thunder. I mean, it's very rainy down here. I think it rains like alternately throughout the day, but so I'm very close to the Sarasota Stargate in Florida, which is really a Hydra-dominated gate site here on the Earth. And so I'm really just working through a lot of that raw, divine feminine truth and realizations with my family. A lot of that's just playing out on a personal level, and it's just allowing me to see things from that personal level into the spiritual realms and then into the cosmic realms. And it parallels, so it's kind of what plays out in your personal life, then you begin to see that on a galactic spectrum as well.
Talk about how maybe our personal relationships right now are echoing some of our relationships with our space cousins, sisters, and brothers, and how we're kind of the as above, so below, but we don't necessarily realize it when we're doing that. When we're triggered for some reason by our spouse or by our mother or father, whatever it may be. Talk about those connections and how people maybe should pay a little bit more attention to the bigger scheme of things, not necessarily just on the relationship. Yes, it's important, but it's also a message of something bigger happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think because the intelligence of the star systems and also the ET races that reside within those planetary systems, as we come into alignment with those galactic systems and those planetary alignments, those play out within our reality. Those become the collective reality fields, and then also the individual reality experiences as it ignites shared soul egregores and shared soul collectives to kind of work through that same reality field template on some level. The radial systems ultimately kind of design the shared subconscious collective reality field experience. And so we kind of begin to play that out. The deities, the beings, the spiritual aspects that come forward through those alignments often come through our family members and the people that we have interactions with on a daily basis. And so as of right now, as we're kind of working through the Hydra systems and the overlapping of the Regulus systems over Hydra right now, we're seeing a lot of the darker occult forces, the birth of the demiurge, the birth of the Yaldabaoth, or the jealous god, the birth of the archons. A lot of this comes through these alignments with Regulus overlapping the Hydra system. And so this also came through the Syrian sun and the Lion's Gate. So we have a lot of the tumultuous cosmic history of these different lines and lineages and facets of the Anunnaki kind of going at war with each other too. So it's a lot of bloodline war between, the Syrian Anunnaki, the Elohim Anunnaki, the Jehovian Anunnaki, the Anunnaki Draco hybrids. Like, this plays out within us. It plays out within our DNA and within our genetics. And so, yes, it comes up for us to clear this on a collective level for planetary evolution, planetary healing. The dark forces seem to be, very heightened this year. There was a lot of clearing we had to go through, with everything that's happened with, don't want to bring up certain words that would trigger the bots to come in here and censor the show. But I mean, there's a lot of dark energy in the grids, a lot of dead energy, a lot of black miasma energy in the ley lines that have operated off of a lot of this beast mechanics, or the beast machine, that has ultimately stemmed from the desecration of the Sophianic template, which I think we're going to kind of get into today.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's a great segue into the conversation. Thank you so much for that. And Greg Herrera saying Indigo is the boss with multidimensional woo. I agree. Wait, we have an echo now. Bring your speaker down just a little bit, Indigo.
Okay. It's down pretty far.
Check 1, 2. Okay, now we're back. Okay, so thank you, Greg, for that comment. That's a beautiful comment. Okay, so guys, if you want to follow along, just go to beyondmystic.net/notes. And here I'm putting notes for some of our conversations as we do these interviews that have multiple links and multimedia to share with you guys. So if you want to follow along with us, you can join us there. So as you can see here, the first item to discuss today is who and what is Sophia? And then in the context of coming up through the Hydra systems. So, Indigo.
Yeah, so what I've kind of gathered is, like I just mentioned, we're really working through the Hydra systems, and it's really opening up a lot of these deep divine feminine gateways. So that kind of happens at the Mary Magdalene feast day. July 22nd is kind of like the beginning markers of Hydra, and that moves through Cancer, and then it moves all the way through September, through the Corvus systems, and even a little bit into like the very tail end of Arcturus, into October. But so right now we're just really exalted in the Hydra system, and why this is important is because Hydra really represents the all of the divine feminine templates, the raw eternal form of those divine feminine templates. And within that is the Sophianic body, which is the solar feminine logos, or the solar feminine Christed consciousness, essentially. And within that Sophianic template, it's kind of like I don't want to call it like a hierarchy structure, but it's divine feminine God technology that kind of exists within its own stairway to heaven through its own geometry signatures, that I've been associating a lot with the hourglass. The hourglass is really defining the divine feminine God technology that's held within the grids and also within Stargate structures on the Earth. But essentially, it's kind of like the Sophianic template lives within the Hydra radial identity. It also lives within the seraphim and the angelic choirs. The Archangel Sophia is a seraphim angel. But this also expands on a genetic Grail descendancy into the Mary Magdalene Grail lines, also into the Isis Grail lines, and also into Eve from the story of Adam and Eve. So they're all kind of carrying this Sophianic body. which has ultimately been under attack for a very, very long time. And I say that because it kind of stems from the Gnostic teachings. So if you dive into the Gnostic teachings, I did kind of leave a link for you. There is one on the origin of creation, I do believe. I mean, there's a lot of writing on this and inserts on this. It comes from the Nag Hammadi text. Yes. It basically goes into the story of the Sophianic body and how... and this was here prior to, like in the limitless light fields, prior to shadow, prior to the birth of chaos. And Sophia basically gets held responsible for birthing the Yaldabaoth, which is this jealous god. And Yaldabaoth goes on to birth the Demiurge, and the Demiurge goes on to birth all of the archons, essentially. So this is kind of where this was originally kind of desecrated. Actually, I don't know if this is actually originally where, but these are texts that we can refer to, right, to show aspects of this, essentially. And so a lot of this is coming up because it is said that if the Sophianic body had been illuminated versus desecrated, it would have actually prevented the fall of Atlantis. And so a lot of these beings that we speak of, like the Yaldabaoth and the Demiurge, these were the entities or the identities that were very much a force and a cause for the fall or the Luciferian rebellion, or the Syrian, Luciferian, Atlantean Holocaust, these types of things.
And how do you put that in context? Oh, still some echo. How do you put that in context for today? What's happening now? And I have discussed about this a couple of maybe months ago, how all of these wars in the Middle East to destroy some of these temples, to destroy some of this archaeology that points to these stories have been in full swing here. But it appears now that maybe this year we're heading into a turning point as it comes to our origins and who we are, where we come from, how we got here in the first place, and perhaps this huge transformation for humanity that is just on our doorstep now as we have entered the age of Aquarius. So how do you tie all of that in for the audience?
Well, when you think about the desecration of the Sophianic body, and it being very connected with the seraphim. Well, the seraphim, the Sera is serpent. It's serpent mythology. And you look at the desecration of the Hindu temples, and India really being where the Nagas, the frequency of the Nagas lives energetically within the grids. And then you have all this desecration of the temples there. So, I mean, there's definitely some underlying explanation to areas of the grids or areas in the planetary locations where we can visibly see the Sophianic body being desecrated, essentially.
Okay. At this point, do you want me to bring up maybe some maps for the audience? Where do you want to go from here? I'm just going to the notes.
Yeah, I was just kind of reviewing some of my notes here too, because I feel like there are some points I wanted to hit.
Yeah, we can get into some of the grid locations as well. In the meantime, somebody was asking me to put up the PayPal tip jar. So let me bring that up on the screen for the audience. And thank you so much, everyone, for supporting the show. And if you have any questions for Indigo, please put them in high caps. It's always easier for me to take out and pluck out from the fast-moving scroll here while I'm having this conversation with our guests. So thank you for that. Okay. Indigo.
I kind of wanted to talk about, though, some of the things that were actually happening because of the desecration of the Sophianic body. So a lot of divine feminines that feel very connected to the Mary Magdalene Grail lines, that feel very connected to the Isis, emanations or, embodied identity. A lot of them are having a lot of extreme symptoms in their cycles, because the Sophianic template and the Hydra template, the Seraphim template, it really emanates through the womb. in terms of psychic interpretation and in terms of how we see this core central drama of the universe, because that's what it really represents. This is the core drama. Going back to the fall of Atlantis, this is the core drama. This is the shared trauma, the shared fractured experience of the subconscious of humanity. And this really goes back to that Sophianic body being desecrated. So for divine feminines, a lot of them are experiencing that through their cycles, extreme cycles, infertility, seeing it through just a lot of pain with their cycles coming late, their cycles lasting too long. A lot of them are seeing this through the cosmic womb, and they're getting a lot of these experiences. They're getting a lot of these imprints and these messages.
Hold the phone here for a second. There's something weird. As you're talking about that, I've been documenting for a couple of months here, and it's very hard to have these conversations here on YouTube, but there were these effects, we'll just call it that, from one of the things that's going around the planet into people's arms. And they allude to what you were just talking about there too, having distortions in their cycles, heavier, lighter, all of these things. And I wonder if one is correlated with the other. Were they also trying through this thing to mess up the communication or the relationship between these female energies, as you said, who are tied in more to the Magdalene grids, and their ability to connect to that? Was that an attempt maybe to shut down or to distort some of that communication, for lack of better words? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely goes after our reproductive system. There's a lot of ways in which they're distorting this within the grids. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff that they've tinkered within the solar feminine god technology, because they're basically spreading dark mother reversals in the grids. And so, yeah, it's definitely going for a reproductive cycle. It is, I've seen hooks like in the 9th dimensional field, like motherhood hooks, that they've like basically hooked into the biology of particular beings on Earth that they are, trying to run their forced interbreeding programs on, particularly like Hydarian Pleiadians. Pleiadians always seem to be under attack of the draconic interforced breeding programs.
Right.
And so they're going after the reproductive. They're going after the 9th dimensional field within the biology. Like I said, hooking with motherhood wombs. There's also things called Vatican seals, where they're actually, it's called through the seals of confession, and it's where they disassociate confession by, what's it called? By, putting like a middleman in between one and God, basically. And they tie these extensions from the Vatican seals down to the reproductive system. So that way they can basically keep memory from being passed on to further generations and things like this. So there's a lot
that is so evil when you think about it. And just a couple of years ago, the Pope through the Vatican had put out this press release, and in it, I'm just paraphrasing here, but you guys can go and find that article. This was mainstream news at the time, but he essentially said that it was dangerous for man to have a direct communication with God, and therefore man should go through the church and the representation of God here on earth, which is the Pope. And I was like, excuse me? Aren't we supposed to all have God source inside of us? We don't need a third party or an interpreter. And now I understand perhaps why they want to intervene there. It's to sever that connection and maybe implement their own type of control grids and lockdowns on top of that energy. Absolutely incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I talk about that in a video I did I put out a new session called the Draco Aryan Occult Seal Removal Session. And basically it came to me when I was really studying. The first seal that I seen was the Monarchy seal.
Is that one on your YouTube or is that on your Patreon?
It's on my YouTube, the Aryan Occult Seal Removal.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That up for the audience here.
And Yeah, you could pull up the picture. There should be a. Keep going. I talk a lot.
Okay.
That picture there, yeah.
Okay,
So I basically started seeing seals similarly to the Jehovah and Anunaki seals. And it took me a long time to fully see all of them. But it came to me when I had been studying the monarchy, and the monarchy seal is the first one what I seen, and it's a seal that basically it's been stamped by every living reigning monarch in wax, and it's encoded energetically about 2 inches below the rib cage. And so these are all Draco seals. They are much more advanced and much more traumatic than the Jehovah and Anunnaki seals. I can tell you this, because they're just more fresh within the collective trauma and pain bodies of the earth. But yeah, the Vatican seal is about at the 8th dimension. It's up and about the causal, and then it ties down into the. I didn't actually have the ropes in there, but that one ties down into the ovaries.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Okay, I put the link down for people to go watch that. That's a really heavy video in and of itself. You got an hour's worth of information.
Yeah, that one. That we would really have to dive in, but it's definitely affecting a lot of things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'm looking for a tweet I put out the other day and see if I can bring it up very quickly. I know I've been pushing a lot of stuff through Twitter. While I look for that, folks, also maybe join me on Telegram. I saw again just before we went live today. Oh man, I missed a notification. Apparently YouTube doesn't send out the notification for my live streams to everyone, even though people click that little notification bell. So do follow me on Twitter. And if you look in the description box of this video as well, you'll see the link to my Telegram. And so both on Twitter, Telegram, and also on Facebook, I post typically 24 hours before my episodes, so my live episodes. So at least it'll give you a heads up to know when my shows are coming up. And that is one way to circumvent maybe the fact that YouTube is not pushing out these notifications here. Okay. Man, I'm scrolling really fast here as I'm talking to see if I can find that original tweet. Oh, this one here. Okay. As we're talking about the monarchs and as we're talking about the papacy, I thought this quote by Denis Diderot was absolutely beautiful. Man will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. So I'm like, okay, yes. And so now putting that in context with what you've just shown us with those seals, it makes a lot more sense. Man, crazy times we're living in, Indigo. Absolutely fascinating. How?
Yeah, well, I think it's because there were seals placed between timelines. There were seals placed between the Atlantean systems. So as we kind of transition into the 6th subrace or into the 6th root race, we're in the 6th subrace right now. We couldn't really see what the Aryans did. Right. The Aryan occultists did, but now that we're kind of coming out of that, now we can kind of see what they went in and distorted, and they're much more advanced because they had all of the technology handed down from their Atlantean forefathers, and so those seals between the Atlantean and the Aryan timelines are basically a little bit cracked and fractured, and they're bleeding through. The fallen Metatronic systems is kind of what carries us over into the Aryan distortions. And so a lot of us have been working really hard to clear the Anunnaki death seals. And so I feel that those are actually starting to kind of subside in some ways. There's been a lot of healing there. There's been a lot of sending reverse reverberation or codes of intention back to the earth to receive those messages that those distortions are no longer really needed here. And so now we kind of have to bring attention to what the Dracos have kind of done here. And so that's kind of where I focus a lot of my work right now, is to uninstall the evil technologies, essentially, and help reinstall the feminine God technologies. That really is kind of the celestial principle of the Hydra system.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to put you too much on the hot seat here, but let me ask you this question. As you're talking about some of these seals no longer having the strength they used to have, why do you think that is? In one hand, yes, we're having energies maybe from our galactic central sun. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. So all of these energies are in favor of humanity in this next evolutionary step that we're about to take. But is it possible also that some of these forces have decided to leave and maybe abandon this takeover of this particular solar system and planet? This is the conversation I was having with Penny Kelly here in the show ETs and Human Trafficking. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are as you're tuning into all of this. Has a major force left or abandoned, or at least partly abandoned, some of their plans for this enslavement here on this planet?
I don't want to say it's been abandoned. I want to say it's being monitored, because there are, I guess, systems in place, at least within the planetary grids, what we're going to go talk about on the map that I sent you. Mm-hmm. I think that they don't have to necessarily be here to enforce it. And I think that a lot of the collective is waking up to shine light and is becoming more conscious of what has been done here. So the more that something becomes conscious, the less effect that it has on humanity and on the collective, because now there is awareness. Now, now we can see it. I think that's kind of what's happened, particularly at least within the Atlantean occultism, that there has been a huge boom of awareness within the consciousness community of the Atlantean distortions. And so I think there's been a lot of clearing and a lot of healing there, and that this summer kind of really represented a lot of that tumultuous energy leaving. And that's why it was so difficult for so many of us, is because a lot of that was kind of kicking and screaming on its way out. But the technologies have evolved, and the technologies, I think, on some level are beyond what Anunnaki and what the Draco have maybe even done here. Maybe that the dark forces of that came to kind of set up camp in what I'm calling is the beast machine. Right. And now it's being monitored and enforced through the hybridization programs here on the Earth.
Okay. Yeah, that's a whole other show. Okay. But no, thank you. I appreciate your point.
We could talk about it a little bit, though, in the map that I sent you.
Okay, so the dark grid, that one? Let me go back to
the other one.
Okay, hold on. Let me show it to you on the screen here and for the audience to follow us. This one here?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that one first. And then we had this one too also. Did you want to speak about this first and then the map, or you want to go to the map first?
Sure. So just been doing some group remote viewing and working with a lot of people one-on-one with remote viewing, which I do offer as a service on my website and on my Patreon as well, if you want to learn how to do these things. But essentially, this is just a location here. I believe it's called the Hagia Sophia. It's in Turkey. And this is a temple where some of the first mosaics of the seraphim were, I guess, brought to the world. You see the Golden Chalice. I've been getting a lot of visions of the Golden Chalice, the 13 stars. But essentially, I've remote viewed and I've seen portal structures at this temple location that does take one down into underground cities of the seraphim. Now, I think there are a lot of underground cities of the seraphim, and they're kind of being oppressed or being held in secrecy until the seraphim energy basically overcomes the desecration of the Sophianic body in the collective. And so they're being, I guess, held in safety, so to speak.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, so folks, follow this link here too, because I'm just watching or just paying attention and zooming in my attention to some of these mosaics here. I'm getting huge downloads, and I need to I need to be off air to really concentrate on what's happening.
We haven't spoken a while, so I'm giving you A transmission. Yeah.
Right. It's a big transmission for sure. Wow. Absolutely amazing. Okay. So I've just put that link back in the chat. Anyways, you guys have it on the notes page there on Beyond Mystic, and you can follow along with us. Okay. Next up was that map. So let's go there now. Well, actually, let's go back to this here. Is there anything the audience can do to help? Maybe by focusing on some of these portals, sending energy, and if so, what would you recommend?
That's definitely a good question. I mean, of course, I've been finding the more things you can do in group activities is the best because you're the most impactful. That way, I've personally started to host once a month group remote views where we're going to go in and go on mission and kind of, go in for research and observational purposes, but also go in to heal or work on specific Stargate sites that maybe have blockages, some of that dead energy. So it's really however you feel you can get involved. If you want to do things on an individual level and just scan in and send light or just do healing on those specific areas, you can definitely do that. But I would definitely look for maybe something in group participation because it's going to open up your clairvoyances a lot too, so you can see more.
And so if people want to do the group thing, that's with your Patreon? That's how they can connect to the group? Is that right?
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to be doing that once a month for
the 11/11. Which tier are they looking for if they want to join that group?
You can join that just on the 11/11 tier. So I'll put out a
these are in Canadian prices. So the diamond one is the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, wow, that's fabulous. Okay, guys, there you go. If you want to take part in that as a group, please do go join Indigo here at patreon.com/IndigoAngel. Again, all of these links are in the description of this video, but let me put it back into the live chat for you guys as well. Okay, so now back to this map. Set us up here a little bit here. What are we talking about, Indigo?
Okay, can you zoom in for me, please?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do that because last time I did that, we're having some weird issue. Okay, maybe just about here for now. Does that work for you?
Let's go all the way into the blue marker underneath number 1. So every time I've come on your show...
Oh, is that the eye of...
Sahara, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So every time I've come on your show, I've gotten so many questions about the Rishat structure. And after kind of spending some extensive time looking into it and doing a remote view on it, I do feel that it is the true location of Atlantis, especially if you start to break down Plato's description of it. And it's very important to go by Plato's description because he's the one that really brought forth and published the story of Atlantis in his dialogue, Timaeus and Critias. He brings forth immense amount of description about it. Can you go back to it? Because as I stare at it, I literally just start to.
Yes, and I also wanted to share this one. I also wanted to share this one with the audience. So Indigo just created this video a couple of days ago or 5 days ago here, reviewing the Eye of the Sahara. So I'll bring that link for you down as well, but let's keep it here for the conversation. Okay, go ahead, Indigo.
Yeah, you can zoom out a little bit too. Just
zoom out, okay.
Yeah, so Plato goes on to describe that the Atlantis was a ring of concentric circles alternating with land and water. So the Rishat structure really completely fits that description, basically. Also, if you zoom out a little bit, what's kind of interesting about the landmass here is it kind of looks like, if you zoom out more, just a little bit, just a tiny bit more, you're doing great. Okay, so you can see this, how it does look like water actually used to come and fill this area here.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely, to me, at least when I was remote viewing in, I felt very called that it was the location of Atlantis. I was seeing a lot of things during remote view, like river systems that come down from the Atlas Mountains that went through the Rishat structure and cut across the east side of the Sahara. And then I also seen river systems underground. When I was remote viewing in, I was seeing whale bones and things like this around the Rishat structure. So there's definitely a lot of water that was here at one point. And also, if you think about how Atlantis fell, like the cataclysm of Atlantis, it's interesting because this little number 1 up here, that green paddle, that's actually a impact structure site called the Tenemer Impact. So it's very interesting that we have, you can zoom all into it, you can actually see the structure of the impact. I highlighted it. It's
Yeah, there you
I drew
go.
a little thing around it, but it really does look on some level like there maybe had been an impact, because then if you go and zoom back out, you can kind of see how that whole continental shelf kind of looks like it's almost fractured and kind of leads into the Atlantic Ocean. You can kind of see how the sands, like the whole continental shelf is kind of knocked down. Like you can see the sands look like they're going into the Atlantic Ocean. So
Yeah.
it's just, it really does kind of fit the description of it on a lot of levels. I mean, also, if you think about the story of Atlantis being, was, I believe, created by Poseidon, and Atlas was his first son. Well, Atlas was also considered the king of Mori, the king of Mauritania. And so I just find it kind of synchronistic that we have this king of Mori, Atlas. Why wouldn't that be his kingdom, in Mauritania there? And so why this came up so heavily also through the Lion's Gate is we have this was coming through the Syrian sun, because the Syrian sun was moving out behind our sun through the Lion's Gate. And so a lot of those extending bloodline, cosmic history, bloodline wars between the Syrian Anunnaki and the Syrian Elohim and the Syrian, the Anunnaki Elohim, all these different facets, right, that were connected and associated with Atlantis, really kind of came up through the Lion's Gate, because we had this, just this re-emerging of this into the collective subconscious shared experience and memory. And so I really do feel that the Eye of Sahara is a metagalactic gateway, and it's kind of working as a grid functioning system into the beast mechanics of the Earth. So if you go back to the map, I'll kind of show you what I mean by that.
Okay, hold on a second here. I love this visual for the audience here as you're doing your remote viewing and writing down what's coming up. I think.
Yeah, I'm really starting to get into remote viewing. Like,
yeah,
I realized that I was always doing it before. But now I'm just like, okay, I'm going to just start.
I love it. Let me bring the link down for the chat here before we move back to the other screen. Okay, so that's in the live chat now. And I noticed this beautifully coiled serpent candle holder here. I love it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I love that too. Thank you.
I love the other one too. What's that? Is that smoky quartz or is that rose quartz, the other candle here?
I believe it's clear quartz, but it's just a little bit dirty because I've had a lot of candles in it, and it's moved with me a lot. So
I love that one too. Absolutely amazing. Okay, talk about an antenna to do your remote viewing amplification with.
Oh yeah, I definitely am also using certain things when I do remote views, like shungite.
Yeah. Do you want to show it up on the screen there?
Because I've been finding in a lot of these gate sites, particularly the Kaaba, it's very radioactive. And so you just definitely need protection when you go in, because you will absorb that.
Yeah. I use the black shungite cube here for my episodes as well. And okay, anyways, we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
You and I are supposed to do more crystal stuff at some point here too. Now that I'm back in the saddle here with all of our production videos, I'll start paying more attention to all of these things that Indigo and I wanted to do a couple of weeks ago, months ago, and that were all delayed because of the censorship stuff that's happening. So stay tuned for that, folks. Much more to come here with Indigo. Okay, so let's go back to my map. You wanted me to zoom back in on the eye itself?
Or go back out.
Oh, out? Okay.
Yeah. And then go across. Okay, so I have labeled up here, or go to the right. I'm sorry, go to the right.
Okay.
So what I was seeing psychically, at least through the Lion's Gate, was that there was an initiation point in the Temple Mount, because the Temple Mount is the physical location of the Golden Gate. It is the physical location of the Lion's Gate. There's actually doorways there that are called Lion's Gate or the Golden Gate. And through the Golden Gate, I was seeing like a Sophianic Messiah or a feminine Messiah that was coming through that gate. I kind of see that as like the initiation point. And then we have the Kaaba here, which is running anti-clockwise mechanics here, like the most human collectively enforced mechanics, because you have all of these Muslims that are praying around the Kaaba going in an anti-clockwise motion seven times in one day or something like this. And so it's generating a lot of quantum here that they are using to access generators within the inverted funnels of the Atlantean systems. So everything's really kind of operating off of that 24-degree north horizontal ley line. If you follow that ley line across, it goes from the Kaaba through the Eye of Sahara, and then goes into the Bermuda, which I do feel is a decoy Atlantis location and works as a black hole system that feeds off of these 666 Apollon seals off the coast of West Africa, and also into the well of Yemen, which is supposed to be the well of hell.
Right.
But when we were remote viewing into Bermuda, we were seeing black hole system that was feeding possibly to the great attractor, is what I kept seeing. So that would be a very interesting concept if we have a multi-functioning beast machine on the Earth. And this is why I'm saying this feels so beyond even Anunnaki or Draco technology, or even hybridizations of this, that this might be intelligence that's even beyond these particular race lineages and facets, essentially, to come in and use these particular mechanics of natural gate sites and unnatural man-made gate sites to be functioning quantum to funnel off of black hole systems in the Earth, to basically, what I'm seeing is to keep that desecration of that Sophianic body, so that way they can't actually integrate the healthy mother god technology on the Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's...
I just wanted to bring this video just for the frequency for the audience to see what this looks like, this counter rotation. This is one example here. Don't know what the date of it on this one is. Do you remember, just as we're looking at this now, do you remember maybe 3 or 4 years ago, during one of these events, there was somebody maybe in some condo towers in the back filming, and then they saw this kind of like UFO come down, hit the square, and then go back up. Do you remember that video?
No, but that's interesting.
Yeah, if I find that video, I'll send you the link. Perhaps we can talk about it in the next episode and see how that might have connected, and why, specifically if we can find the date and the time, you might look at some of the astrological alignment and say, oh, maybe this is what was happening here. So that's pretty fascinating.
It's definitely a very mysterious and extraterrestrial location. I do feel that rock on the corner of the Kaaba is a meteorite rock. And so they're definitely using alchemical and elemental technology that I do feel goes into like the lunar systems and the Saturn matrix as well.
Let me just see if I can bring a picture of that corner stone there. Hold on a second. I was in the video thing. See if this works for the audience here. Yeah, so I'll see if I can zoom this in for you guys. There you go. Now, speak about this again here and how maybe all of this ties in. And somebody was asking also earlier, does Moldavite help? Oh, there you go. It's still on the screen. Mikola was asking you for protection. Do you use Moldavite for protection, or do you use it more to maybe expand antennas?
Yeah, more expanding antennas, not as much for protection.
Right.
For protection on remote viewing, I have found shungite and also wearing a mirror. Like if you can get a mirror, if you want to hold a mirror, or if you want to get like a mirror necklace, just because of the reflection of light that would emanate from your energetic field. And you can use that to shine that into the unconscious and the shadow spaces of areas that you're remote viewing.
Oh, that's interesting. Mikola also says, I thought that video was over the Temple Mount. That could be. That's why I'm not finding it doing the search here. So that's possible. Okay. I'll try to see if I can find that video. Anyways, it was a cool video. Okay. Now let's go back to our grid. I was curious about the Bermuda Triangle portion of it. How are you tying this up to this beast machine here?
Because of the horizontal ley line. there is technology that goes into the horizontal ley line that I can't actually bring forth right now to remember and what it's doing, but it's basically, it's a current that is going from east to west. That's kind of like if you look at the Sahara, the Eye of Sahara, the opening gateways to the Eye of Sahara are pointing west. So there is this current that flows west. Even if you think about how they're going around the Kaaba and they're circulating that anti-clockwise, it's an unconscious collective enforcement of the flow of the way that ley line is generating. And so it's just interesting that, we've always kind of seen the Bermuda as maybe the location of Atlantis, or that it's under the water in the Bermuda, that there's, crystals, the 13 crystal skulls or the crystal generators of Atlantis are down there. I kind of feel that it may be a decoy location, and that if the true cataclysm happened and actually, knocked that continental shelf off of the northwestern corner of Africa, that it may have moved that portal structure from underneath the Eye of Sahara to maybe somewhere under the Bermuda. And that they're using that technology to either hold down the fabricated structures of the beast machine, which would be these, patriarchal type control structures. I do know a lot of these Stargate systems are also being used as pinpoints to hold down the fabrics of the overlay control grids, particularly the Aquila Anunnaki system, which is one of the strongest, most powerful control grid on the Earth. And so, there's just a lot that's happening there. As we were remote viewing in, we kept seeing a hourglass symbol rotating in the center of the Bermuda, and that those hourglass geometries may be representing time portal passages that may even need to be flipped as you're going into the gate system. And so there's just a lot about that location. It is very heightened with geomagnetic energy. So it is definitely pulling energy down into the funnel system, which I feel through remote view was seeing that it could be accessing or generating or pulling energy to the great attractor.
Okay, fascinating. As I was looking at the map too, the Gulf of Aden, you and I had a video on this a couple of months ago, and then maybe a week after or 2 weeks after, something happened there and somebody was talking about deep woo-woo stuff in the mainstream news. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And now I forget what it was. And again, I've been so busy in the last couple of weeks here to track all of this stuff. But again, it's just so fascinating how you decode stuff. And then a couple of weeks later in mainstream news, something happens at those locations you're talking about. So it's absolutely fascinating. Okay, so I found this video. This might be a copy of it. For some reason here, it says 2020, but I believe it was before that. Anyway, there's this little UFO, unidentified object here, just hovering over. Let me play this clip here, and at a moment, it'll go right down to it and then come back up, and everybody's like, "Whoa, what the hell just happened?" So I don't want to play the volume there. I don't have permission for that, but see how it's coming down now. And then I believe it shoots right back out, like really, really rapidly. And the people who were filming this were like, whoa, what the hell?
It's a very heightened, powerful gate site on the Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. So there, it's still there. Hold on. Still there. At one point, it zips out. Oh, maybe here. Did it zip out already? Yeah, I think now they're trying to track it. I mean, it happened very fast. There was another video I saw that was a little bit more clear than this. Like there's a little bit more resolution. At any rate, okay. I thought I'd bring it in. It could tie into something we're talking about here. And yeah, so Mika's saying, yeah, that's the right one. Okay, just not the right quality one we're looking for. At any rate. Okay, so let's go back to the map. Is there anything else here that you wanted to bring up for the audience? And then there's another map you sent me.
Oh yeah, so
show.
How and why I think that's a decoy location of Atlantis is because I feel that those are the gate systems that they use to actually place the J seals. So if you pull up the other map.
Okay, hold on a second here. The black grid one?
Yes.
Okay, bring that up. Okay.
Okay, so you can see where all of those are located. They're all in the 70 degree west vertical ley line that runs through the east side of North America down through the west side of South America. And these are all of the seals. These are considered the unnatural death seals that they basically implanted into the biology. They're also in the grid structure of the earth, but also in the biology of the human physiology, essentially. And this is kind of where all those are located. So I do feel that the technologies of this beast machine may be what is holding down these implants into the grid, essentially. That it does operate off of from the Bermuda Triangle, essentially. So if you like zoom into it, you can see, because I think I have the Bermuda, that round circular one there in between. Yeah, that is the Bermuda there. So you can see how they all run through that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's multi-dimensional grid systems functioning to keep, control systems in place and keep people where they want them to be, essentially. But good thing is we do have the technology to remove these things.
Yeah, and apparently, like I said earlier, we're getting energies maybe from our galactic central sun and some of these alignments that are actually helping us to that effect now. Now, as I'm looking at that map, again here, I don't want to put you on the spot too much here. We didn't talk about this before the show. Cuba is pretty close to this area here. I'm wondering, have you ever remote viewed these pyramids on the northwest coast of Cuba?
No, I haven't.
There was this documentary, I think back in the 90s. It was a Canadian-Italian doctor who had used and had received permission from the Cuban government to, at the time, use this new technology that was similar to a side scan sonar type of thing. And these were the images that were coming up. And they were supposed to do a documentary on what's that called? National Geographic. And anyways, through the paperwork and all of that, they realized that by signing the contract, National Geographic owned all the material, and that they were never allowed to publish anything other than these couple of pictures we can still find on the web. And anyways, this doctor was on the Art Bell show way back when talking about this. And I thought that was fascinating because we never actually got to see what they picked up other than what this person had already published before she realized that there was this NDA, and basically National Geographic just canned the whole series and they never showed this information. Now, what was cool about that too, in the early, maybe 2003, 2004 time frame, somebody was talking about this on the radio, and a nurse called in who was stationed in Guantanamo Bay. And as she was hearing this story of this Canadian-Italian doctor team doing this work, it reminded her of something that the Marines had told her in Guantanamo Bay. And she said there, of course, there's a lot of activities, a lot of submarines, a lot of guys come over there and they do R&R on Saturday night, barbecues and stuff like that. And she said that there were some of these sailors telling her, the nurse, these stories that they were scuba diving off the coast of Cuba and that they had found pyramids and active technology. So energy, ongoing, perpetual energy, some type of thing like that. And at the time, the nurse was like, oh, these sailors, they're going to just tell me these crazy stories. They just want to get into my pants or words to that effect. But then when she heard this particular broadcast on the radio, she says, maybe those guys were actually telling the truth. They were talking about this. So anyways, that's fascinating. And Indigo, maybe it's something you can put up on your queue here for your next remote viewing session, because again, in the last couple of years here, we've seen this détente and then this retraction of the détente between the Americans and Cuba. So we always wondered what this quarantine of Cuba was after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Was there in fact something else that was put in place, maybe under the guise of trying to stop communism infiltrating North America, but really it was trying to prevent maybe some of this knowledge here underwater coming to the light. So maybe that's a remote viewing that we can do here in the next little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you guys know,
I get called to it, I've been getting called to a lot of places like the DIA airport.
really? Oh, that's interesting. Well, going back on Cuba, I've been called there as well. Between 2000 and maybe 2010, I had traveled there maybe over 20 times to do scuba diving. And every time I would try to do a trip to go scuba diving somewhere, something wouldn't work out. I would try to go here and work out and didn't have the flights. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just go to Cuba. I like the waters there. So I was always going in the waters in Cuba. And this apparently at the same time as something was being activated underwater there. So I was wondering, now that I heard all this years back, I'm like, was I connected to something there also?
Yeah, that's interesting. It makes me wonder if those are Atlantean related on some level.
Who knows? Yeah. Could be absolutely fascinating. All right. Wow, time flies. We're already 55 minutes in Indigo. Let me go back to your last map here, the dark grid. Is there anything else here that we need to share with the audience?
I just kind of wanted to highlight that those J seals are running through that Bermuda location, that Stargate there. So, I mean, it does really seem to me that that's interconnected to the functioning of those other particular horizontal ley lines that could be generating across the Atlantic.
Okay. Alrighty. So let's go back to our notes. I was just scanning the comments here as well. Was there anything else here? Okay, so we talked about that. I think we're almost there for the show.
Yeah, we did good.
We did good. All right. Hey, we're right on time too. Is there anything else, Indigo, before we go today that you want to share with the audience, either from your notes that you took and we forgot to talk about it, or is there anything else now maybe in the conversation that we had that sparked your interest here and you think is important to share with the audience?
I think what I was talking about earlier with the Sophianic body, a lot of this raw divine feminine truth coming forward. I think we're getting closer and closer to understanding the truth of creation. I think that's what's kind of revealing more as we continue to go through these repeating cycles of our subconscious collective shared experiences. It's just pushing us to more of that truth to be revealed, and to eliminate the demonization, to eliminate the corruption, and eliminate the evil technologies that are running here on the earth. And so I think as our consciousness expands, more of that truth keeps being revealed. And that's why it is so important for us to understand these more occult star systems as I have a fly, as they're just holding so much more of the story. And so, I think when you look into the Gnostic teachings and you go back into the Yaldabaoth, it really kind of shows us, at least from their perspective, that this jealous god, this Yaldabaoth, was the one that was actually responsible for what happened in the Garden of Eden. And it actually was the serpent who was trying to protect them from this Yaldabaoth, this jealous god. And so I think
so the serpent was the good guy in all of this.
Yeah.
Right.
The serpent represents that Sophianic eternal wisdom.
A lot of people also believe that the serpent represents Lilith, who was that first original template of the divine feminine. And because she wanted to be equal with Adam and not lay under Adam, they kind of demonized Lilith and then gave us the version of Eve instead. Anyways, that's for a whole other show, but that's absolutely fascinating how everything we're being told is absolutely inverted. And we're just now moving into this consciousness where we're remembering through our DNA, but also through our collectiveness and how we're all interconnected and how we all have a piece of the puzzle. And when we do live streams like this too, it's incredible how we bring all of that together. So thank you so much, Indigo. And of course, let me bring this up here too. If you have, so let's talk about the special here for the Beyond Mystic audience. And let me bring that link down to the chat for the audience as well. Go ahead, Indigo.
Okay, yeah. So the Beyond Mystic special is an in-depth starseed origin reading that does come also with a J seal removal, I do believe, and a PDF of my book, How to Read Celestial Starseed Origins. And I do believe I have a 10%. So it is discounted, and then I also add another 10% off the package at checkout with checkout code Beyond Mystic 3. For your
Beyond
third.
Mystic 3. Okay, let me write this.
Yes.
Let me bring this down here for the audience in the live chat as well. Wait, I think that link didn't work, but the coupon code works. Hold on a second. Let me bring that back down for the audience here, just to make sure. It is in the description box below, guys. If you're watching this on replay, you'll be able to just click on the link there. But let me bring up the coupon code as well for the audience.
Yes, and if you're interested in getting the DAO seal removal, you'll definitely want to have had the J seal removal prior, because some of these seals are interconnected, and so we have to kind of uninstall the technology from the fallen Atlantean systems, and then you can go in and uninstall the Draco distortion.
Okay, so there's a little bit of work there to begin with. So for the audience here who are kind of new to all of this, maybe before you get into any of these packages, why don't you start by perusing Indigo Angel's intense library here already on YouTube. Tons and tons and tons of free stuff here that'll help you out. Some meditations, some visualizations. And then if you're interested with that, move over to her Patreon here, where she goes a little bit more into detail on how to remove some of these. For example, the J seal removal, you can do that here, or watch some of these videos here on her Patreon. And then, if you're really serious too, get that Galactic Starseed reading from Indigo personally. It'll give you so much insights on who you are, how you're connected through all of this, and what your mission is right here, right now. And so, yeah, wow. Again, time flies, Indigo, every time you're here. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us here today. This was the Galactic Download with Indigo Angel. We're going to try to do this every 2 weeks is our plan now that we are back in the saddle. So just look for the poster here in 2 weeks from now, which will bring us on August 26th. If everything goes to plan, that'll be our next episode here. And Indigo, you and I will just confirm that after the show here and bring up the posters for the audience. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching. And please do remember to like, share, and subscribe here on my backup channel. And you can find me at Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic 3. If you're watching this on Indigo's channel, come over to our side here and peruse our library that keeps growing every day until they delete us maybe again. And of course, I'm having fun with that. All right. Thank you so much, Indigo. I love you. Have a great day. And we'll see you soon, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Have a blessed day.